Hey guys, it's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm here to talk about all the books I managed to read in November. November was full of a lot of buddy reads, a lot of rereads, and a lot of audiobooks. My first two rereads was The Scythe and Thunderhead by Neil Schutzeman. I really enjoyed this series, however, I did duck a star on each book. The first time I read them, I gave them 5 stars, and on this reread, I gave them 4 stars each. We follow these characters in this future world where humans have conquered death. In order to prevent population to get out of control, there are scythes, and scythes are tasked with selecting members of society to kill, and we follow in the first book 2 apprentice scythes. I think what Neil excels at is his world, and his plot is just incredible. The concept is really unique. The story is really engaging. I think he is a very thought-provoking author. I did notice on this round that I think there was a lack of character development in comparison to how much world building and how much plot that he had given attention to, and I reread both of these in anticipation for The Toll, which is the final book in the trilogy, and I don't even know how to talk about this because I was so disappointed. First of all, I should mention that I was supposed to do a buddy read of The Toll with Meg and Jasmine. It didn't really work out that way. Meg gave it 3 stars in the end. I gave it 2 stars, and Jasmine didn't even finish it. So much going on, and there were new characters that were introduced into the story. When you introduce new characters that late into the series and you give them their own POV and they do become a important part of the plot, it was really difficult for me to care about those characters. I wanted the characters that I'd been with from the beginning. I wanted to hear how they were doing. It was just so jam-packed, and Meg said that it was a too ambitious book, that it should have been split up, and that's exactly what it should happen. It was just too much. As I kept reading on, I was caring less and less. By the end of the book, I was ready to be done. I enjoyed the social commentary that the series stands for. I then did another buddy read with my friend Pamela. She and I both read Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. Unfortunately, this book just wasn't my cup of tea. That's what it really came down to. We are following this Chinese American family in the 1960s or 1970s. I forget. It might be the 1970s. They have 3 children, and the second child, who is the favorite child of the parent, has died. This story switches between POVs of the family members and switches timelines and tells the story of how this family came together, the conflicts this family had internally, and how external factors affected the family. I thought the story was going to focus more on the mystery surrounding the disappearance and then death. We find out that she's died within the first chapter, so it's not a spoiler. I can't even remember her name, but the middle child, the favorite child. It really wasn't. It's a lot more about the family and the family breakdowns. Don't think I like books where it's about family breakdowns. I really enjoy when there's families or when there's siblings. I really like them to have good relationships, or at least at the beginning they might have a not so good relationship. I really disliked all the characters, especially the parents. With this one child, they gave her all the attention, they put all their hopes and dreams. They both felt like they didn't live a life they didn't live. The father in this is Chinese American and the mother is Western American. She had hopes when she was younger to become a doctor, then she got married and had a family instead, and the father has always felt like an outside in society because he is Chinese. With their daughter, they put everything they wanted to be in her, and they put all this pressure on her, and then they don't pay like any attention to their 2 other children. I really felt for the kids, like how their parents were treating them. It wasn't a pleasant read. It was really miserable. One thing I really did enjoy about it though was there was a lot of discussion about race and gender and the privileges that those come with. So like I was saying, the mother who wanted to be a doctor, it talks about how she was expected to not have a career, how she was supposed to go and have a family. So I really enjoyed like a lot of the social commentary on it. Again, that's what I tend to enjoy in books. I gave it 2.75 stars. It's not a bad book, it just was not my preference. I then did another reread of Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. I do own the physical copy, but I don't know what happened to it. I listened to the audiobook of it this time, and the audiobook is really good. If you haven't heard of Skyward, it follows a girl who is the daughter of a coward. She lives on this planet with these people who are fighting off the Krell, and they are this alien species they're at war with. Well, there are those who train to become pilots, and they fly these spaceships which they use to battle and fight against these aliens. And her dream is to become one of those pilots. Her dad was a pilot and he ended up fleeing, and that is why he has been branded as a coward. And she wants to redeem her family name, or not a family name, it's not really about families, but she wants to redeem herself and prove to everyone that she's not a coward. And so it's about her getting into this flight school and training. It's so much fun. I don't really have anything else to say other than I gave it 5 stars again. It's incredible. I really enjoy Spencer's character and Spencer's growth. I read this in anticipation for Starsight, which is the second book that came out at the end of November, and I did finish it, but I didn't finish it until the first day of December, so it'll be my December wrap-up. I then read Iron Gold by Pierce Brown. I've been meaning to read this for honestly months. I can't really say very much about the plot of this because spoilers. If you haven't heard of Red Rising, it's this dystopian sci-fi novel where we follow this boy called Darrow who is a red, and reds are the lowest class in the society, and it's about his quest to overthrow the ruling class, which are the golds, and he does that by infiltrating them, by becoming a gold himself. And it's just about his journey and the revolution and his impact on the world, and it is incredible. It's honestly one of the most epic series I've ever read. I will say this book takes place 10 years after the events that happened in Morningstar. This book I did struggle to get into. With this book, it does follow multiple POVs, and the original trilogy only ever has one POV. So it took me a while to wrap my head around it because we're in different places of the world with different characters. Okay, so there are a lot of new characters. There's just a lot of characters in general, and there's a lot of different houses, there's a lot of different alliances. There's just so much politics that sometimes I was a little bit lost, so I did have to refer to the character list to figure out who was who and who was aligned to who. So if I reread this series, I'm definitely going to make notes. Just a lot of information that you really need, otherwise it does take you a little bit to get through. And I gave it 5 stars. The last book I have to talk about was another audiobook, and that is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. Oh my gosh, I was so excited for this. I'm someone who really enjoyed The Night Circus. A lot of people were reading this and talking about it, but if you haven't heard about it, it's Erin Morgenstern's latest book, and it's basically about literature and the power and magic of literature. We follow this boy called Henry, and he comes across this book in a library that is about him, about his childhood, and it's in vivid detail, like stuff that only he should know. And so then he kind of goes on to a quest to find the author, to find out like how is the existence of this book possible. It ends up being this really whimsical story that's about all the stories in this book, because that book that he finds isn't strictly about just him, it's about other stories, and then there's all these stories that eventually are tied together. It's really magical. The writing is stunning. My only regret is that I listened to the audiobook. This is definitely a book that you need to read physically. This actually did remind me a lot of The Bone Clocks by David Mitchell. So if you have read The Starless Sea and you loved it and you want to read a book similar, I highly recommend that book. I really enjoy it, and now I want to reread it that I've mentioned it. Yeah, I really can't say much about this. It's really hard to talk about this book because it's really vague, and stuff doesn't really start happening until a little bit of a chunk through, and I don't want to say it because I think it's just really magical. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are enjoying whatever you are currently reading, and I will see you next time. Goodbye!